Hi there, I'm Beth, and today I've got a more personal custom Blythe doll project to share with you all. Before I get into it, my voice might sound a little bit bad still. I got the flu back in the first week of December, and I've really been suffering from it for the rest of December. I still have a lingering cough and a raspy voice, and I get exhausted still so easily, but anyway, I hope I'll feel better soon. As usual for me, my custom doll starts with a basic AliExpress Blythe, chosen this time to look as much as possible like my little sister Emma. This is because the Blythe is to become a mini-me as a gift to my sister. I sketched up a concept of roughly how the face should look, including her lovely big grin and her hooded eyelids. My sister has a disability called Kabuki syndrome, one aspect of which gives her a few different physical characteristics, such as her eye shape. I didn't focus so much on filming the sculpting this time round, because this project needed to be worked on around other projects here and there, so it was a little disjointed. I did start with guidelines directly on the face after I'd sanded off the original makeup. I knew I'd really have to push the width of the open mouth to the limits. I started with a narrow, wide opening, then gradually opened and shaped it. You can see from the inside view that I was right up against the inner box that holds the neck. I added some more shaping to the nose and smoothed things out some more, but before I did any final sanding, I needed to make the modifications that I planned to the eyes. You can see how thin the faceplate is here around the mouth too. My plan is to put in the eyelids covered with cling film and use some clear UV modelling gel stuff that's supposed to be used for fingernails to build up her hooded lid shape. This is the first time I'm using the UV modelling gel, so I wasn't sure how it would be to work with. It was fine though. I do regret getting the clear version. I thought it would be easier to work with, but I think one of the flesh tone colours would have been better. It cured really easily, but just like when I tried adding Milliput to the faceplate, I really struggled to get the transition area sanded where the gel meets the faceplate. I thought maybe spraying the faceplate with a grey primer would help me see the bumps more easily in order to sand them, but oh boy, I really regretted that. I realised right away that I needed to sand off all the primer and just suck up the fact that I would have to struggle to see the transition areas because of the see-through gel. I tackled all of that sanding off camera, so in the meantime, let's look at what Emma will be wearing. Our mum got really invested in what she should have to wear and sent me reference pictures of all her favourite things that Emma wears. First was the pretty blue floral pair of Birkenstocks, which I thought I could replicate using wet formed leather. I dampened some leather and pressed them into shape using these 3D printed forms, designed and printed by my husband. Once fully dry, the leather should hold this shape. While I wait for them to dry, I start planning out the long-sleeved striped dress, which should be easy to replicate using this lightweight striped jersey. It'll stretch around the body nicely, so I'll try to cut a neck hole and armholes, leaving the body in one piece before attaching sleeves. I stretched a pair of shoe uppers in a pretty blue leather too, and once dry I could pop them off the forms. I'll trim them down and glue them to some doubled up cardboard soles. I coloured the soles using acrylic paint markers and glued them with superglue before cutting little leather strips and attaching metal buckles to them, gluing them onto the shoes too. I cut little grooves into some white craft foam and used it to make some outer soles for the shoes, finishing them off nicely. Then I was able to carefully paint on all the tiny flowers using more acrylic paint markers. Didn't they come out really cool? I think they look great and certainly pass for the real Birkenstocks. Next, I eyeballed the shapes to cut out of the jersey fabric for her dress. I cut some sleeves and I set about hand sewing it all together. Since the dress doesn't have side seams, I inserted the closed sleeve to the arm's eye and hand stitched it in place. It's looking good, so I'll close up the back and add some Velcro for the closure. After test fitting the dress, I decided I'd made it too loose and I wanted to add darts to the sides after all. I did this by sketching out a diamond shape under each arm and used a ladder stitch from the outer side of the dress to follow the dart outline. I could then pull the thread tight and the dart closed itself in. I added a simple turned collar to finish the neckline and called it good. The dress and the shoes are done. Now this is right when I got sick. I was stuck in bed for a while, but eventually had the strength to do a little crafting from the sofa. So I decided to start working on a knitted cardigan for Emma's Blythe. I had the perfect colour of acrylic yarn and gave it a purled collar and cuffs, working it all onto one needle, with the sleeve stitches picked up for completion later. A couple weeks later, I made a start on colouring her face. I was keen to try using my pan pastels to colour match the clear UV gel sections. It took a few layers to get full coverage, but it did work nicely, no paint needed. I also built up warmer areas of colour in her face and ears, backplate and eyelids too. After a fresh layer of MSC matte sealant, I used pastels to block in Emma's eyebrows. using a magic eraser sponge to refine the edges and a large brush to knock off excess pastel dust. I then drew in individual hairs using my watercolour pencils. I also used those pencils to help me flick freckles directly onto her face, and I drew some in specific areas using a paintbrush directly. On the back of her head, I started drawing in a picture of a rose and an open diary, her favourite flower and a favourite pastime. The artwork was built up in layers too. Here's her face up so far, and of course she'll have her glasses on too. Next, I needed to cut and glue in some new eyelashes for the eyelids, and I also looked out my eye chips to choose some colours similar to my sister's to put in the eye mechanism. Contrary to my usual customs, I'll be leaving the original pull cord in place and reattaching the spring instead of adding a sleep eyes cord. This is because Emma has issues with her fine motor skills, so I want to keep things as sturdy and as simple as possible for her. Before I insert the new eye chips, I test the mechanism thoroughly. I can see the eyelashes look too long and they get distorted by the new eye shape, so I'll trim them down. Another thing still to add are her teeth. I'll use transparent polymer clay, the kind that cures with heat, to make them for her. I only need a tiny bit that I'll push into the opening of the mouth from the inside to properly gauge the size and shape. I lightly mark a centre line before pushing the clay out. I'll then press in the rest of the tooth lines and will carefully cure the clay using my heat gun. Here the tiny teeth are cured and still hot, and you can tell they look more transparent now too. Once cool, I add tacky glue round the edges and carefully press the teeth in place. Once dry, I also use a little tacky glue to add in the eye chips I chose too. I'll paint a little gloss varnish onto her lips and teeth before bringing her scalp and body back together with the head. I chose not to add a neck joint, again in an effort to keep everything as sturdy and simple for Emma as possible. Before we finish, she'll need a haircut to try to match Emma's shorter style. She'll also need a cosy padded sleeping bag to travel in too. I make this in my usual fashion, layering together a lining, padded batting layer and outer fabric to create a padded rectangle cut at 16 by 18 inches. I like to add some snap fastenings and then fold in one side to create an envelope shape. I hand stitch the short sides closed, and that's it. I'm also quickly making a pair of underpants for decency's sake, which I cut from a pink jersey and trim with a decorative stretch elastic. They turned out pretty cute, and now I can finally put everything together and see how she looks. I'm really pleased with her new short hairstyle. I'm giving her some long socks to kind of match her cardigan, and as a little nod to the fact that Emma's always layered up, often wearing a hat and scarf even in summer. Her dress and socks work really nicely together, and here's the knitted cardigan I made her too. I added some tiny buttons to finish it off, and I really love it. Of course, we have her mini Birkenstocks. They just slide onto her feet, nice and easy, although I'm going to secure them with clear elastic bands before I give them to her so they don't fall off. I also crocheted up this quick hat for her to wear, another nod to her usual cosy layered outfits. And of course, her glasses. I really think she looks fantastic with everything brought together. What do you think? Please watch until the end to see my sister Emma's reaction to receiving her mini me at Christmas. And let me say a big thank you and welcome to my newest supporters over on Patreon. Austin Riediger, Embroider My Name, D. Hope Snyder, and Ria. Thank you so much to all my followers over on Patreon. I'm so delighted to have you there. Well, I would just love to know what part of Emma's mini me was your favourite, so please leave me a comment down below. I'm currently working on more custom Blythes, as well as some exciting smart doll projects, so watch this space. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye! Yes, some little accessories don't fit anymore. Yes. What do you think, Emma?
Love it. Love it
Yeah.
so much.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yay.